To deepen our knowledge of the 8 studio habit of mind, develop craft, which we are exploring in this unit, we are going to learn to use our materials, tools, and practices through the creation of a 3D repeating design. We're also going to be talking about how we can use that artistic concept of exploration in our artwork, how we can take that idea of creating new things with an open mind, being open to taking risks and making mistakes and learning from those in the artwork that we create as well. We're also going to be exploring through this piece the artistic concepts or the artistic conventions of overlap, line weight, size variation, and negative space through the work that we create in this project as well. So what is it that we're going to be making? We're going to be creating an 3D repeating design that optically looks like it has dimension to it by the use of color and the principle of art known as contrast. We're going to create an abstract design or an image that is not representational of a real object. It could be if you wanted to, but it's not required that it is. That is an exploration, so there's that art concept word again, that explores the placement of shapes and images together to create one unifying composition. This design is going to be a repetition that creates a pattern, another one of our principles of design that we're going to be exploring in this project, by using the same 2x2 inch portion, 2x2 inch block, multiple different times, twisting it, turning it, rotating it so that we get an interesting composition overall. So in the end, we'll have a flat design that gives us the appearance of it being three-dimensional by using color contrast to create that. I'm also going to give you the choice to create a three-dimensional work. So you can take these same concepts that we are talking about for this project and apply that to dimensional work. In this case, you'll use cardboard. We'll cut out cardboard and layer it on top of each other to create that depth, actual physical 3D shapes stacked on top of each other that will then be painted using color and contrast to create dimension as well. So to begin that, we're going to discuss the 4 different types of design. Now, design can be broken down into many different types, but these are the 4 major types. We're going to be discussing radial design, organic design, symmetric design, and asymmetric design. These are all going to link back or connect back to those artistic conventions that we talked about, as well as that idea of exploration, how we can take these new ideas, these abstract ideas, try different things, make mistakes, and make a design out of it. And then ultimately back to develop craft, where we're going to learn these practices of artists and artwork and explore those practices through the tools and materials we use to create. So radial design is one of those 4 major categories of design. Radial designs are designs that are based on a circle that extends or branches out from the center. So if you can think of a circle having a point in the middle and then things growing out from that. So they're often found in nature or in the real world. If you think of a flower has a center, and then the petals branch or extend out from that center, just like in the example shown. We can construct radial designs out of lots of different materials as well. We could use stone for sculpture. We could use drawing. We could use painting. In the example shown here, this is a sculpture or a bas-relief. So it is slightly raised from the surface. There is a face in the center of the design, that circle part, and then all the other shapes grow or extend out from that. So each circle grows or gets bigger out from that. The arrows pointing out from that. All of the different designs, the patterns that are used all grow or extend out from that center. Here are a couple of examples of that. So in the one on the left, the black and white example, we have this organic shape in the middle, similar to a circle, and then the leaf shapes branch or extend out from that general shape in the middle, that circle shape in the middle. So they can be very complex, like this one, or they can be very simple, like the one on the right. On the right, we have a point in the center. And then all of those wavy lines in different colors, in the blues and the greens, they extend or branch out from that center point. So do the circles. So we have a smaller circle and then a bigger circle after that, bigger circle after that, bigger circle after that. We're also seeing some of the artistic conventions that we discussed earlier being used here as well. In the image on the right, there is the use of overlap. So if we think of each circle as a whole circle, then one circle sits on top of the other circle. It's overlapped on top of the other circle, overlapped on top of the other circle. In the image on the left, the artist is using line weight. So we have some thickness of lines and some thinness of lines. Where lines get curly and sharp, they become thin. Where they're thicker and bold, they stand out more. Here are a couple more examples. There's lots of different ways that you can interpret radial designs when you create your own. So it doesn't have to be a circle in the middle. It could be a point in the middle or a star in the middle or anything that starts in the center and branches out from there. So in the image on the left, the black and white image there, we have these oval shapes that extend or branch out from the center. And then the other shapes grow out from there. Same thing for the image on the right. We have a star shape in the center, and then all of the other triangle shapes grow or extend out from there. A couple more great examples of radial design. Not everything needs to connect to the center part to still be a radial design. So in the image on the right, the teardrop shapes, they do not connect to that center circle. But they still feel like they're growing or extending out from that circle by how they're arranged around it. In the image on the left, we have lots of different variety of sizes. Again, one of those artistic conventions. So we have some organic shapes that are really small, some circles that are small, some that are larger, some of those leaf shapes that are, again, small, some that are bigger. So this artist is using a variety of sizes to create their radial design as well. In the one on the right, again, this artist is using negative space. Negative space is the empty space and one of those important artistic conventions. All of the white space in the drawing is a negative or unfilled space, but it is just as important as the filled space because it helps make that filled space, that colored space, pop out more. Our second type of design that we're going to be discussing is organic design. Organic design is design that's based off of objects found in nature. They're usually rounded and flowing forms. It's not often that we see very hard-edged geometric designs in nature. The only thing I can think of is crystals and maybe some rock formations. But more often than not, organic design is very rounded and flowing. These are two examples of organic design. The seashell that curves and around, and the leaves. Here's a couple of artist-created examples of organic designs. Note that in both of these designs, the artist is using that artistic convention of overlap, or placing one object over top of the other. In the one on the left, we can see that these are objects based off of something found in nature, but are not exact representations of it. It doesn't have to look realistic. They're stylized versions of leaves, stylized versions of grass, stylized versions of that little bug on the top of that leaf. Same thing for the image on the right. There's a bird nestled in all of these lines. And again, in this piece, the artist is using that artistic convention of line weight, where we have some thick lines, some thin lines, some lines that appear feathery, some that appear hard-edged, some that are curvy. And having those thick and thin lines, that different line weight, gives it a sense of variety and interest. So we have that bird in the center, but it's not a realistic looking bird. The artist has used curly or curvy lines to create the wings. Organic design can be anything from plants, leaves, to even curlicues. They don't have to be exact representations of something found in nature, but can be. And again, in this case, both artists are using those artistic conventions, especially that use of overlapping and negative space. The third type of design that we're going to discuss is symmetric design. Symmetric design is a design that when folded in half, either vertically or horizontally, one side is a mirror image or the exact same as the opposite side. You can find this in the real world just as much as you can find it in art. So if we take a look at this butterfly, or the moth there, if we drew a line down the center of its body, then one wing is the exact mirror opposite of the other wing. So where there is the circle on one wing, the other wing has a circle in the exact same spot. Where there is an oval shape, there's an oval shape on the other spot. Same thing for the snowflake. If we were to cut the snowflake in half horizontally, right through the middle, or vertically, then one side is going to be exactly the same or a mirror image of the other side. Symmetric designs can be very interesting to make and very pleasing to the eye. In this composition, again, remember a composition is the arrangement of different elements of design according to the principles of design in an artwork. The artist is using several of those artistic conventions to create an interesting symmetrical design. So they're using variety of sizes. So we have some big squares, some small squares, some big curly cues, some small curly cues. We have overlap. So some shapes are placed on top of other shapes. We have the use of negative space. In this case, it's up to us as the viewer to decide, is the black the negative space or is the white the negative space? And they're using a variety of line weights, some thick lines and some thin lines placed together to create visual interest. Again, if we cut this piece right down through the middle, vertically, then it is a symmetric design. And we know this because where one object or one shape is placed on the left-hand side of that dividing line, it's the exact same on the right-hand side of that dividing line in the exact same place. And that's a symmetric design. Our fourth and final type of design that we're going to be discussing is asymmetric design. Asymmetric design means not the same. So the design feels off-center or askew or possibly unbalanced. It is not a mirror image of the other side. You can also find this in nature. So in this image, for example, of the peacock feather, if we drew a line right down the middle of that feather, you'd notice that it's not exactly the same. The blue is thicker on one side and thinner on the other. That orange color, again, is thinner on the left-hand side than it is on the right. Here are two good examples of asymmetric design using simple shapes. And again, these artists are using those artistic conventions to create design. And the one on the left with all of the colors, we have different shapes overlapped on top of each other, but it's not exactly the same on either side. It's askew. It's not a mirror image. It feels like all of those shapes are grouped very heavily on the left-hand side, and that big blue shape is our negative space. Same thing for the black and white image on the right. It is not symmetrical. We couldn't fold it in half, either horizontally or vertically, to have the sides match. But that still creates an interesting design. And in this piece, the artist is using that variety of sizes to create visual interest. These images represent a good distinction between symmetric and asymmetric design. In the image that depicts the trees, we can see the symmetric tree, where one side is exactly the same as the other side, and the asymmetric tree, where one side is not the same as the other side. The image with the shapes on it also represents asymmetric design. On the left-hand side, we have very big shapes and only 3 or 4 of them. On the right side of that design, we have a lot of different shapes, and they're stacked or overlapped on top of each other. So one side is not the same as the other side. And this is where you can explore a lot. You can be playful with your designs. you can try lots of different things to create asymmetry. As mentioned previously, composition is something that creates As mentioned previously, composition is key to creating a strong and aesthetically pleasing piece of art. So we can do that by using these artistic conventions. We can create patterns and have them repeat over and over again to create a strong composition. We can use that convention of varying sizes. We can layer or overlap objects on top of each other to create a strong composition. And we can use negative space. So this image here does all of that, even though it's just using simple circles. So we have pattern and repetition created by having a circle repeated over and over again. If we think of each circle as an individual circle, they are overlapped on top of each other. A black circle on top of a white circle. They're also in different sizes. So we have some small circles, some medium-sized circles, some larger circles. And then we have a variety in our negative space. So it's not all in one place, but it's balanced throughout the piece, which creates more visual interest and helps our eye move throughout the composition, or leads our eye throughout the composition by having interesting negative space, just as much as the filled space is interesting as well. For this piece, we're going to learn a little bit of basic color theory. We're going to be talking about which colors appear to advance towards us or come towards us when we look at them, and which appear to recede away from us. In these two images, you can get a feel for what colors come towards us and what colors seem to go away. In the image on the right of the smoke, it should appear that the warm colors, our oranges, reds, and yellows, look like they're coming towards us, just a little bit. And those cool colors, the blues, the greens, and purples, look like they're going away. And that all has a scientific basis in basic color theory. Warm colors, colors that we associate with fire, red, yellow, and orange, they appear to advance towards us because our eye actually has to get a little bit thicker to see them. And it's minuscule, but the retina of our eye has to get a little bit thicker to see them. Same thing for cool colors, but opposite. The cool colors, in order to see them, the colors that we associate with water, green, purple, blue, our eye has to thin out a little bit. The retina in our eyes has to thin out a little bit just for us to perceive those colors. So that's why it appears when we're looking at colors on a flat surface, a 2D surface, that some colors appear to get closer to us and some colors appear to go away from us. Looking at these images here, what color seems to advance towards you? It should be that orange. What color appears to go away from you here? It should be green. And then what color appears to come towards you here? It should be yellow. So for this project, you're going to create your own repeating design. We're going to start by creating a variety of thumbnail sketches. And that's where we're going to explore lots of different ideas. We're going to try different things. We're going to take some of our ideas and create radial designs. We're going to create organic designs. We're going to create symmetric designs, and we're going to create asymmetric designs. But what you choose to create is up to you. I want you to explore lots of different things. Try different shapes. Try different meanings. You can be narrative with them. You can be representative. You could create a sky. You could create a robot. You could create just an abstract design. But this is where you get to explore. And that's where we're going to tackle that artistic concept of exploration. We're going to develop our craft by then taking that design and making it into a repeated design. So we're going to trace our 2x2 inch box over and over again to create an interesting composition made by that one 2x2 inch square. If you choose to do the cardboard piece, you'll create just your one design enlarged out of that cardboard. But with that, you'll be creating layered space. So you'll have to choose which objects are going to be taller or higher on the piece and which objects are going to be lower. And then we're going to use a little bit of color theory to create that illusion of depth. So we're going to be selecting one cool color, either a blue, green, or purple, to go along with one warm color, either red, yellow, or orange, to create that illusion of depth in how our eye perceives color. So your finished project is going to look something similar to this. You're going to choose your very favorite thumbnail sketch from those 4 different types of design that you have explored. We're going to repeat that on a final surface, twisting and turning it each time to create an interesting design overall. And then we're going to use one warm color and one cool color to create that illusion of depth. If you choose to do the cardboard sculpture, you'll create a layered design from one of your thumbnail sketches, and you'll paint that to give it the illusion of depth using one warm color and one cool color. Our objectives in this project are to distinguish between the 4 different categories of design that we explored through the project. So you should know the difference between radial, organic, symmetric, and asymmetric design. We're going to identify and learn more about those artistic conventions that will help us create a design. So overlap, line weight, negative space, and using a variety of sizes. We're going to develop our craft more by exploring different tools, pencils, paper, cardboard, watercolor paint, or acrylic paint, to deepen our knowledge of them. We're going to know what it takes to create a strong composition through exploration, and we're going to know a little bit more about those elements and principles of design, especially line and shape, contrast, and pattern and repetition. A successful completed example will either be a 3D repeated design that is painted using watercolor, such as the example here, that explores the 4 different types of design: radial design, organic design, symmetric design, and asymmetric design, and then creates a repeated pattern from one of those types of design that uses contrasting colors, one warm color and one cool color, to create the illusion of depth. Or another successful completed example could use cardboard to create your design. It will also explore the 4 different types of design: radial, organic, symmetric, or asymmetric, and use layered space by stacking cardboard on top of each other to create the design. It will also use contrasting colors, one warm color and one cool color, to create that illusion of depth on the piece as well. Here are some student examples.